Hans Niemann versus Vincent Keymer. Number 5 versus number 6. As you can see from this table, they are in the list of the top juniors. Keymer is 17, Niemann is 19. So, what am I going to cover? 2 games. One of them is a disaster for Niemann, but the other is a complete turnaround. Game 1. All these games will be seen from Niemann's perspective. Knight f3, Knight f6, and now we have the English with an early g3, b6. Now's the time to compete on this diagonal. Keymer now opens the center. The reason he does this is because he wants to get the queen in the center. Now it does get hit with the bishop. Knight a6. Why? Niemann doesn't want to put the knight here. It blocks the bishop. So knight a6, both sides castle, and one move effectively takes out both of these pieces. a3 is such a cool move. You go b4, just restricting the bishop and the knight. This is one option, one way for Keymer to continue. Bishop f4 chosen, and now d5 striking in the center. If this happens, take, 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 we call it a day. Nothing for both sides. So you've got to keep the tension. Rook d1, h6, bishop e5, knight b4. One option here is you can take. Now, you get hit by the rook, so what? You take a move out. And in this position, you can see I've highlighted the pawns on the right. The pawn structure is symmetrical. No problems, really. And we can all chuck our queen in one move. Check. That's a cool tactic to look out for. So going back to this moment, Niemann blundered by playing a move that looks good normally, but once the queen gets out of the way, this is the problem. The rook is pinning the pawn to the queen. There's going to be a problem in the center. Knight d7, you hit the bishop, it drops back. You hit the knight, and then there's just so much pressure on the d-file. You lock up the center, but you hit the knight first. You can go knight e4. Keymer actually went knight b5. b4 could be next. g5, you hit the bishop, it goes back. Now, why is Niemann just pushing his g-pawn? Because he wants to pick up this pawn. You can see I've highlighted these pawns. They're all overextended. That's the problem. However, Niemann does pick up this pawn by getting rid of this. Do you remember a long time ago? The knight went to the side. Bishop takes, knight is now possible. I'm not saying this is any good. This is a disaster for Niemann. You hit the rook, and the amazing thing is you don't take the rook. Keymer just went here. Class move. And it is necessary. The amazing thing is if you take the rook, you lose. Black is now attacking white. Knight f3 check is game over. If you play a nothing move, check. Check. Mate. Game over. And if you try to hide, if you try to run out, I mean, it's not going to last. Here, there's going to be something. King g4, f5 check, why not? And that's mate all of a sudden. That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Here, you're going to get mated. Here. No. Class moment here. Bishop back to g2. Knight c7. Still doesn't take the rook. Keymer takes a central pawn. Because after this, queen centralizes itself, which we're going to see later in the game anyway. Knight d4. Niemann doesn't take the knight. Queen f6. Knight b3, attacked bishop. Black now saves the rook. And we get this situation, this transition into a superb endgame for white. Knight takes bishop. And now queen e4. This position is so open, it's going to benefit the two bishops. Offering a trade. No. Attack both. Rooks come off. Attack the rook. Save it. Still, both attacked. And now it falls. But then black gets the c4 pawn. The amazing thing is Keymer doesn't even run it so soon. Bishop d2. I've circled all the pawns. It may be 5 pawns each, but it doesn't feel like it. It feels like white is much better because the position is so open. Knight d6. You attack both knights. You attack the bishop. And cool tactical moment here. You don't want to take this because you take this and you get something annoying like this. The queen and knight actually work so well together.
Good night, William.
Good night. Really cool tactical moment here. You just play bishop takes pawn. You give it up because your other knight is still hanging. So if this, then take. You're missing a g-pawn. Going back a couple moves, Niemann just went knight check. It leads to the same thing. Here, bishop back, and yeah, we're missing a pawn. Queen d4. Attack, defend, and queen f4. Class move. Can't take. Because after this, the knight is tragic. It has to go back to h7. And then, you just run the pawn. That knight is out of the game. Queen f4. Take. One more move and black is fine. But it's white's move. Hit the knight. It's got no squares. Take. There's no time. You can't actually take this because this knight is actually in trouble. The bishop all of a sudden comes in the game. Throughout this game, this bishop has been controlling this diagonal. But now it attacks knight. You have to block and then check. Everything falls. Here, take. Black has no time to take that pawn. Queen d4. Rook e1. Now the rooks come in the game. Really class moment here, not to trade queens. Queen f4. If you take, black's drawing tendencies have increased. It's a really cool moment here because you might just trade and then you might win. No, keep the queens on. The king is actually weak. Check. Offer a queen trade? No. Attack the pawn, defend your pawn. Queen back, and now take. You might be thinking, why not queen here? Check. And if you go here, check. You lose the knight. If you go the other way, you come back. That's a cool one. Total control. Black's running out of moves. That's going to fall. Let's go back a few moves to the game. Queen g7. So then the knight can come to f6. Take. Hit the rook. Check. And now the funny thing is, big difference if this happens. If king here, rook f4. The bishop now comes in with check. Really cool tactical moment here I have to show. Knight check. It looks so annoying. The king can actually go to h3, it's pretty safe. But a really cool move here. Brilliant move. Rook takes knight. Take. And now, nice geometry. Finish it off. Check. Beautiful. If you block, you use the pin. Attack. Attack. Game over. Here. Take. White is completely winning. Now, going back to the game. In this moment, Niemann actually traded queens, but big difference now. Keymer takes the trade because it's 4 against 2. Rook f4, hit the knight. Push. You stop white pushing. Defend your asset from the front. King g2. Centralize the rook. Push. On the left, you can see 3 against 2. On the right, 1 against 0. Now what? Hit the rook. Hit the bishop. You can go back. It looks a bit passive, but that is actually a really good option. But Vincent keeps it clean. Take. Take. So it's 2 against 1 now. Bishop c2. Perfect control. Everything controls everything. Knight e5. Hit the rook. Rook c5. Rook b5. Bishop b3. You're going to see this again later. It's beautiful how Vincent traps black's rook. King g3. You defend a pawn. Not only that, you've got rook b7. That's why Niemann goes f6. Check. f4. Here we go again. Beautiful construction to shut out the rook. Pause the video now to have a go, or just let the timer run. Can you find a really nice move for white? h5 out of nothing. I just thought it's a class move worth showing. Take, and you get mated on the side. Have you ever had this construction where the knight is just so clumsy, blocking the king's exit? h5, king h4, total domination. Every arrow shows domination. The green, blue and yellow show the pawn, bishop and rook shut out the knight. And the red we've already discussed. The bishop and the pawn totally restrict the rook. It goes to a1. Check. And then king g5. Check. Pin. Can't move the knight. Game over. Really cool tactical moment here. You've got to give credit where it is due. Rook h5 check. If you take the rook, it's stalemate. But you just move the king out of the way, making sure your opponent has enough moves. King f6. Game over. Niemann has white this time. And we get the Catalan. The neo-Catalan, because white is delaying d4. And that's why Keymer plays d4 himself, to get more space. Check. Block. And now a5. Another move to control lots of dark squares. a3. Bishop retreats. b3. If you don't play that, black will play b3, which is so annoying. Controlling the queen side. If you go b4 now, well, en passant, and now you've got a clumsy, an isolated pawn on a3. a3, drop it back, b3. Controlling the dark squares. Knight c6. Blocking in the c-pawn. Why? Why? Both sides castle. And black has a wonderful position. e5. Black has so much space. Keymer has outplayed Niemann again in the opening. But this game is not a disaster. The first one was a total calamity. Not this one. Queen c2. Bishop f5. And now bishop c5. Perfect position for black, to be honest. Knights are on their natural squares. Bishops are on their perfect squares. e5 and d4. You control many more squares. You control a lot of space. a5 here controls the dark square, stopping white gaining space. Absolute perfect position for black. Knight g5. Queen e7, hit the pawn. White just goes to c1 to defend it. Bishop g4. Rook e1. Knight d7, now the queen attacks the knight. It's not only that, you're putting the knight on c5. Hit the bishop, hit the knight. You can't go here, that is a blunder. Take. Attack. Both are under attack, you save the knight and then you lose the pawn. So you can't actually do it in this order. Great move from Keymer. h6, hit the knight. Bishop retreats. f5, the attack plays itself. White has a tragic bishop on b2. Niemann retreats the knight. Queen e6. Ideas of trading maybe. e4. This is the moment where you do not en passant. This is the blunder that Keymer made. Play a move like knight c5. Keep the control. f5 later. Keep the control. Black is the one dictating the play. White can't move. En passant was chosen. Now why? Maybe Keymer was uncertain about this bishop's future. But then this bishop is now in the game. Hit both. Threaten mate. Game over. All of a sudden, this bishop is now stronger than this one. Going back a couple moves. Queen g6, you attack d3. e4, blunder. We can all chuck our queen in one move. Discover check. So you don't block in this way, you go d4. You block the bishop by attacking the knight and the center at the same time. The pawns come off, knight d3. Very complex situation. Knight attacks rook and bishop. So much pressure in the center. And the funny thing is, Niemann moves the knight to attack the queen. If you move the queen to a wrong square, you lose the knight. That's the point. The queen actually has to go back. Except that wasn't played. c5. Great move. Practically a great move shutting out the bishop, right? Wrong. Shutting out the queen. If you go here, check, and it's something like this where the queen is actually trapped behind closed doors. We go back a couple moves. If you go here, well, move the queen, we get the same situation, it's still trapped. So going back a few moves, perhaps this is what Vincent was worried about. You hit the queen, but lots of exchanges now happen in Niemann's favour. Check. Both queens are being attacked. Take, take, take. Now what? Everything is still being attacked. Check. If you take this one, that knight drops. That's why on this move, knight e2 check was played. Take, take. Now what? Everything is still being attacked. But white has an in-between move, an intermezzo, knight e7 check. The king moves. Rook, bishop are still being attacked, but just in time, you move the rook to b1 and you defend. Rook e8, the smoke is now clearing. Knight d5, take, take. Hit the bishop, and once the smoke has truly cleared, we have two knights against a rook. The two knights are normally better than the rook. Let's see. Controlling dark squares. c5, great move. Hit the knight. It's being defended. Rook d3. Bishop back. Bear this in mind. That bishop is going to play the winning move. It's going to play the winning function. f5, hit the knight, inviting the knight in anyway. A really cool move here is actually b5. So you can't en passant or else you lose your knight. But b6 was chosen, which is totally different because now white has a really good move. The knight can now retreat here. Everything falls. You might be thinking, hang on, what's the difference between retreating the knight? Because the pawn now controls the square. So that's a gigantic difference. b6, Niemann is now totally winning after knight c4. The queen side is totally crumbling for Keymer. Take, and you can take this, winning, but it's about going after the king. Pause the video now, or just let the timer run. What do you think? White to move and win. Knight f4, game over. Knight g6, you're going to pick up the rook. Bishop attacks the rook. The blue arrow shows you can't actually go back here to stop it because you lose your rook. Because of this move, this brilliant move, knight f4, game over. The rook doesn't have a good square, it goes to c3, check, pick up the rook, and you are just down a knight, game over. Before I look at the scores, let me know in the comments, which game did you prefer? Quick summary. Did you prefer this one? Key moment here. Keymer blows open the center, uses the pin, and controls the entire board with the bishops. We get this endgame. Total domination from the bishop pair. You pick up a very important pawn here. Bishop takes. Hit the knight, come in. The rooks now come in the game. Key moment here where Niemann keeps offering a queen trade. Keymer says no. Check. Now the trade happens and then Keymer, the professional that he is, finishes it off. 2 against 1. And here we go. This is a beautiful moment in my opinion. This diagram. Here. h5. And then king h4, total domination from all the arrows shown. And then we finished it off here. Or did you prefer game 2? Where even though Niemann got a bad position out the opening because he got less space, The key moment was en passant, opening it up here. In White's favour, the complications worked out for him today. So many complex exchanges. We got this important move check. Then we get this situation when the smoke has cleared, when the dust has settled. 2 knights for the rook. And then the final crushing move here, winning the exchange. Knight f4, professional finish. And you are just up a knight. Let me know in the comments, which game did you prefer? In the top left, we have Hans Niemann. How did Magnus Carlsen beat him?